Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my friends. It is I once again, your horror host, the Dark Librarian, here to tell you tales of terror. And my friend Mr. Bones is here to help us. Isn't that right, Mr. Bones? Yes. And we are here for Bizarre Brain Comics. And the tales to tell tonight are this one right here. From Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, as told by Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, for Archie Comics. We shall consult the big book of knowledge. Must find it. And we are here for our spooky month for Halloween. Halloween! Here we are. Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, as told by Sabrina, #1 from 1972, which is an American comic book published by Archie Comics. And after the Comics Code Authority loosened restrictions on supernatural elements in the comics in 1971, it seems Archie jumped into the mix along with Marvel and DC Comics with the short-lived Chilling Adventures in Sorcery. Volume 1. Now this is part of Volume 1. And Volume 1 only was composed by issues 1 and 2 in 1972. And just a few years later, they had Volume 3, which picked up with the numbering of number 3, which only lasted for an additional 3 issues. So issues 3, 4, and 5. And that was under the Red Circle label for Archie. And it was since Sabrina as a horror host. That had no horror host in those 3 issues. So, here we go. Let us join Sabrina as she shares her stories of horror and mayhem in Chilling Adventures in Sorcery. And here we are with Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, #1, as told by Sabrina. This is issue 1, and here is issue 2. And these covers are not were not drawn specifically as covers. It's composed of panels and story elements from the stories inside, and then just composed and laid out in this fashion. And unfortunately, since there are no credits, I have no way of knowing for sure who did what. and at least in these two, in issues 3 through 5, under the, which was just Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, under the Red Circle banner. Their primary artist and writer, but not exclusively so, was the great Gray Morrow. As for Volume 2. And these the normal Archie creators. While these issues here are without, as I said, without creator credits, I can't identify, especially the writers. I cannot identify the writers, and that may be listed somewhere else, but I couldn't find it in my research, and it may be just a few years ago. All these were reprinted in a trade paperback, which I've got, and I've been unable to find it on short notice. And it may have some of the background in there. But I think at least two of the artists in these are Dan DeCarlo, and which makes sense. He was a very prolific at this time for Archie, and I think Al Hartley. It's just some of the artwork here just really makes me think of Al Hartley. So, and probably others. Okay, so let's take a little look. Now you see here, as you can see on the cover, that these books are still using even though they're of a spooky and horror nature, they are using the standard Archie art style. Now, they didn't do that with Volume 3. Volume 2, with issue 3 through 5. They had regular, primarily Gray Morrow, very realistic, and a little bit more on the suspense, because these are suspenseful, but they're not nearly as gory. It's more kid-friendly. The stories are very similar to what you might find in House of Mystery or any of the other horror/mystery titles from Marvel, DC, or Gold Key. But it's just a little bit, possibly a bit more kid-friendly because it's the Archie style. But the interiors, not necessarily as gory as one might find in those, as far as death and mayhem. But they do have some. Let's take a look in this story here. It says, "Behold the Beast," and here you see Sabrina ringing us into the story. Said, "Behold the Beast. He was a nice guy, Tommy was. You would have liked him." Yeah, and you can see the shadow here. He's got 4 arms, and there you see him down here. But he looks so sad. He did look somewhat different, you know. But he was bright as a shiny penny, and such a kind, generous boy. And he's chained up in an attic somewhere, and his family probably squirreled him away up there because they would be so embarrassed for people to see that their son is so deformed. And he's very strong, and finally he just decides he's going to leave, and he manages to break the chain, and he skips out. But the world is full of people whose tolerance is limited to their own image, and as people see him, they scream and they're frightened, and a mob gets together. I said, "It went that way. Get your gun, men. Lock up the children. Maybe we'll need a silver bullet." Whimpering, he loped into the woods. He goes into the woods in a little swampy area, and he's hiding while the mob's chasing him. He just wants to be left alone, wants to be free. He would like to have a friend. And then as the mob passes by, he hears a soft voice. It goes, "Oh, hello, hello." I can't do that soft, sweet lady voice. And he goes, you're not afraid of me? Oh, of course not. See, and especially see here, as in these, it's a standard Archie stylization on the figures and characters. But are those people looking for you? Said yes, and I hear them coming back. I've got to go, and he runs off and hides. And they said, have you seen the creature? Have you seen that horrid? Because no, I didn't see it. Nothing. And she wasn't lying either, because they go on and he sees she's using a cane. He comes out of hiding, and she reveals that she's blind. So what he looks like doesn't matter to her. Said, I can't behold anything, as you can see, and you sound as kind as they sound cruel. And he is so smitten by this sweet, lovely young lady without sight. And she was so friendly to him. He sits there and you can see the little hearts. And he's quite smitten. And then just a few minutes later, he hears a scream, ah! And then we see that she has slipped into a bog of quicksand. And the mob has rushed because they heard the screaming. But don't get too close. She's a goner. No sense in more of us going down with her. So here the brave people of the town who are willing to go out and hunt down this horrid monster that's not a monster are not willing to risk themselves to save this poor blind girl. But Tommy, he rushes or pushes him aside and throws himself into the bog himself. And he is extremely powerful. And he lifts her up out of the bog and tosses her to the side to these vile people and saves her. And the last thing his lovesick eyes saw brought a smile to his tortured lips. She was safe as he was going. Oh yeah, and then you see them. And even then, they can't say, oh, sure, he didn't know what he was doing. It was just a mad act, a lunatic freak. Lucky for the girl, he threw her toward us. And there she is, sobbing for the friend that she had made who was so brave and so sweet and sacrificed himself to save her. And that's the story. See, that's just like what you might... It's not funny at all, even though it's the standard Archie humorous style. Brief look at this. Now this one I think is drawn by Al Hartley. It just really reminds me of, because I've seen Al Hartley's work in other stuff and his slightly more realistic stylization. This looks like The Boy Who Cried Vampire. This is this boy here at a party. His family's rich, and this is Uncle Brucey. Uncle Brucey, and he finds out that Uncle Brucey isn't really his uncle. He's just an old family friend, and see how sinister he looks there. And he says, well, something's not right. He looks so bad. And he goes off into the library, and there he goes, oh, there's Uncle Brucey in there. Well, he goes, oh my gosh. And the eyes Stanley looked into were not those of your common everyday type family friend. No. And he's hypnotized, and later he comes back, and he's been passed out and injured. He's got 2 little puncture holes, and says, it was him. He's a vampire. And Stanley, and they think he's going nuts, and they find a carving fork from the kitchen. It's got blood on it, and it just fits the holes, just the perfect size. But they checked the blood on there. Yeah, it was indeed his blood. Somehow he must have fallen, and in his fright, he concocted this story. Well, he said, then I imagined the fangs. I knew that imagination of yours would get you into trouble someday, Stanley. And the Uncle Brucey has to take him home because Dad has someplace else he has to go. So I still don't know how I happened to fall on that fork. And Brucey says, well, you didn't. What? I hypnotized you and stuck the fork in your neck. And here was the one that got out there. I knew. I was right, you are a vampire. Of course, dear boy. When one... been one for 500 years. One of the best. No, see? And there's Sabrina in her house with Aunt Zelda and Uncle Ambrose, and they're just laughing at the story because it's one of their favorites. Oh yeah, and more. This one's a kind of a sweet one with this kid in high school class he's always being tormented and bullied by this guy because the student has a terrible stutter. And he's always being made fun of. So when the teacher gets after him, but it doesn't do any good. So she gives the guy this book and said, I don't want to waste time repeating it. Why don't you take this book home and translate pages 20 and 23. And so he's back home. He's working on his homework assignment. And as he reads what it says, it says, and the evil within shall bubble and boil. The sulphurous fumes of Beelzebub shall rise to the surface, and the mark of the devil shall be upon the flesh. And you can see in the process, oh my gosh, it was a spell, a spell book. And he read the book, what he was supposed to, and it dissolved him. And ooh, see, this is rather horrid for Archie. And then the next day, the young man never comes back. And this is a really nice shot of Sabrina. In fact, he seems to have disappeared right off the face of the earth. You'll notice I said off the face of the earth. And then the young man's stutter went completely away. And there she is, all tucked up in bed after her pleasant little story, Sabrina is. And it turns out that, of course, the old lady was a witch. A little one-pager, and it's spooky, too. Not just Curiosity Kills. Oh, that's a really, really nice one, Sabrina. And I'm not going to go into that story at all. Just to show you. But you can see some more horror stuff. Had it been drawn more realistic, it would have been more scary. But so this made these issues more kid-friendly. But yeah, if you can call it that. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. They used the stylization, but had the same kind of spooky stories that the others creators did. So that's all I wanted to show you for Chilling Adventures in Sorcery by Sabrina for our early Halloween fest here. It'll get spookier and more gruesome as we progress, okay? So thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And remember, even when it's spooky, comics are art.